Good morning, Morai, Rabotai, Beruchim Abayim. We are continuing on Masechet Succah. We are on top of Daf Mem Gimal, Amud Bet. Today's Amud is being learned as a Zchut Rufa Shelema for Michael ben Nahid, Rachel Simcha bat Nahid, Rachel bat Edna, Esther Bracha bat Chaya, Rabbi Avraham ben Tashgol. And today's Amud is also dedicated for the Zchut of the Neshama of Jacqueline bat Avraham al-Akhtas, that should have an aliyah. This month's learning of the community has been graciously dedicated by the Kohen family, by Dayan family, by Shei family. It should be an ultimate zchut for all the mishpachot Be'ezrat Hashem. Amen. Now we are going to start back. We went a little down quickly. We're going to go back up to the third line by 2 dots on top of the Amud. And that's the mitzvah of Arava. We spoke about the mitzvah of Lulav. And then the Mishnah said that Arava also in the Mikdash was either 6 days or 7 days. So says the Gemara, Arava Shiv'a Kesad. How do you have Arava be 7 days? Arava B'Shavi'i, the Gemara says, is going to push Shabbat away. In other words, you have the mitzvah of Arava on the 7th day as well, and therefore, if 7 days seventh day falls to be on Shabbat, you still take Arava, which would be muktzeh, and you still would do it. So says the Gemara, Arava b'shvi'i mai tama dachya Shabbat. Why does Arava push Shabbat away? The isur of muktzeh, however you slice it. And we don't find the Arava to be doche Shabbat any of the other days of the Chag. It's unlike Lulav that pushes away Shabbat the first day only. Arava only pushes away Shabbat the 7th day. How do we understand this? So Amar Rabbi Yochanan, kedei lefarsema. The reason we have this concept is in order to make it well known that this mitzvah, as the Gemara says it, shehi min Torah. Now this mitzvah is a mitzvah d'oraita. How are you mefarsim? When you let it push away a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, the muktzeh is a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, to be careful. When something pushes away a d'Rabbanan, how are you allowed to do muktzeh? It's d'oraita. That's how you're going to get the word out and make an impression that this is important, this is mitzvah d'oraita. So says the Gemara, Yachi lulav nami litchi kedei lefarsemo shehu min haTorah. Let us have lulav also on the 7th day, push away Shabbat, in order to show that in the makom mikdash, in the surrounding areas of the mikdash, lulav is 7 days mitzvah d'oraita. Unlike the gvulin, the areas outside the area of the mikdash, that only the first day is. In the mikdash itself is all 7 days midoraita. How do you know? Well, you don't have any indication. If you want to be mefarsim that, let lulav also push Shabbat away on the 7th day. Well, we don't do that, says the Gemara. No, lulav gezerah mishum derabba. We understand why lulav doesn't, because of what the Rabbah says, because you got to come to carry it on Shabbat, you got to get all mixed up and excited, and a person may come to carry the lulav arba amot birshut rabim, which obviously prompts the question, then why lulav is asur and arava is mutar? Maybe arava also you got to come to get all excited, have a tumult, and forget and come to carry it. Why don't we say that? The Gemara says, Arava nami nigzor, let us be concerned about Arava, the same thing. It says, no, Arava shenuche bedin maitila. Arava is not brought by people. Arava is brought by the shluchei bedin. Shluchei bedin are very careful. As the Kohanim Zerizim, they're very on top of their game. So therefore we're not concerned about it. Lulav lekol masur. Lulav, everyone brings their own lulav, and therefore is their problem. Fine. Yachi kol yoma nami litchi. If Arava is so important that we're not concerned about it, and it's the Oraita, and also because Shiluchei Bedim bring it, we're not concerned about people carrying it, so why don't it push Shabbat? Why doesn't it push Shabbat every single day? Why says for a very simple reason. Because people are going to say, whoa, this is much more important than Lulav. Lulav only pushes Shabbat the first day. Arava pushes Shabbat regardless of what day Shabbat falls, every day of the week. We could, if it falls, well, every day of the Chag, if Shabbat falls, it's going to push away Shabbat. It's more important than Lulav, which is absolutely not true. So therefore we can't do that. That's a disrespect to Lulav. People are going to be mezalzel to the mitzvah of Lulav. That's not important so much. Arava is the main thing. So therefore we can't do more than one day. So Gemara says, Ve'litchi b'yom tov rishon. So let it be just like Lulav. First day, Yom Tov we should push away. Not the last day. Gemara says, no, you can't do that either because lo muchecha milta. If you do the first day, it's not clear that you're being doche Shabbat because of the mitzvah of Arava. What will people think? Let's be honest. People will say, well, it's really the mitzvah of Lulav that's pushing Shabbat. Because we know already that Lulav pushes Shabbat the first day. So if it would bring also Arava, they'll say, oh, because Arava is in the Lulav, Lulav really is the one that does it. It's not something that's nicker, that the mitzvah of Arava itself on its own is important enough to push Shabbat. So therefore, the whole reason, the whole notion that we have to make it mefursam, that people should know that this is an important mitzvah, it's not going to be accomplished. Because people are going to think that this is like a, piggybacking on the mitzvah of Lulav, hence it does not get its own importance.
How is it done differently? Isn't it the mitzvah of the Lulav, Harava, Hadassim all together?
So this is a separate mitzvah, as we're going to spend some time, that they would actually bring long branches of Arava and they would put them, lay them on the Mizbeach, they would go around with them, which is going to be the machloket that we're going to have. So that's not necessarily the mitzvah of Lulav that you had with Arava together. It's Arava alone. But if you put it in the first day, people are going to think it's because of the fact that there is Arava in the Lulav also. So that's why it's really Lulav that's pushing it away, not because of Arava. It's like a piggyback, not its own. So therefore it can't be the first day. It has to be some other day.
Was the Arava ceremony the same every day of Sukkot?
So simply put, yes. We'll now talk about it more. Says the Gemara, Amri, Lulav de Kachdachi. People, if you do it the first day, people will think Lulav is the one that's doing it. Velitchi bechad mahanach. So the Gemara says, fine, I understand why not the first day, but let it be any other day. Why the seventh day? Why did you pick the number 7? Pick 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Why so the first one, we understand why not. Why 7? Says the Gemara, Kevan de kamaf gadla mirishon ukma ashvi. Once it's not the first, it's got to be the last. Why? Because if it's one of the middle days, it's not really clear. You want it to be stuck in people's mind. It's either first or last, something mitzuyan, something that is marked. So first and last is very much marked. So that's why we do Shvi. Fine. Yachi, says the Gemara, Gemara says, fine. Now let's get to business. Why don't we do it nowadays? If you're telling me that is the Oraita is so important, it's Tachi Shabbat, so why don't we do it nowadays? And the Gemara pulls right away the answer that we gave already before for Lulav. Gemara says, no, we don't know what day is what. We are over here in Bavel, and until they bring it, this is obviously before Hillel HaNasi, right? Hillel HaNasi, even though that once you say Hillel, everyone thinks of Hillel HaZaken, it's one of the Amoraim, right? It's one of the Amoraim. So it says, before the setup of the calendar, we don't know in Bavel what day is what. Maybe Elul was 29 days, and therefore today is the first day of Sukkot, or today is the last day of Sukkot. But maybe Elul was 30 days, and tomorrow is the last day of Sukkot. Not today. We don't know what day is Shvi'i, what day is not Shvi'i.
That's already 3 weeks into the month. We still wouldn't know.
That's how the Gemara is assuming here. You're correct that usually after the 15th, it should be a little bit more clear. But again, a day off, 1 day off is, when you know that when you have a full moon, that it's not the 10th, right? But the 14th and the 15th, the moon looks pretty the same. So the Gemara's assumption is, before they set off the calendar, it's not so clear. We're not baki b'kviyah deyarcha. That's why we keep, by the way, 2 days of Yom Tov in the Shvi'i Shel Pesach as well, in the Shvi'i Shel Sukkot as well. Why do you have 2 days of Yom Tov? Because, well, it's really the Shemini. But Shemini Atzeret. Why is it? Because you have this Feka de Yoma. So says the Gemara, we are not Baki. Well, so fine, we are not Baki, but they are Baki in Eretz Yisrael. Inu de Yadi bekivu de Yarcha lidchi. Let them at least take the Arava, because there they know what day is what, and they know what the 7th day of Chag Sukkot is, and let them take it and be Docher Shabbat. So Gemara says, by the way, you remember that the Maskara of the Gemara that we had before was that Lulav actually is Docher Shabbat, right? Even nowadays. That was the Maskara where everyone was very excited and very surprised, and we said, don't get excited, we got to get to the Gemara, that the Gemara is going to fall off of that. That the Gemara is going to be today, right? So we're working with that premise that Lulav is Doche. So why can't Arava be Doche over there in Eretz Yisrael? So says the Gemara, Ki ata Bar Hedya, Amar, when Bar Hedya came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, said, Lo ikla, it will never happen. The 7th day of Sukkot will never, ever, ever fall to be on Shabbat. By the way, this is not the Bar Hedya that was a Rasha that we spoke about in Masechet Brachot, Daf Nun Vav, who was interpreting Chalomot and so on and so forth. Those who remember that he had a whole Maaseh with Rava and with Abaye, and he ended up dying. So this is not that Bar Hedya. But Bar Hedya said when he came from Eretz Yisrael, will never. Why wouldn't it never happen? Because says Bar Hedya, this is the way the Ritba explains this Gemara, that when Chazal would see that the 7th day of Chag Sukkot is going to fall on Shabbat, they would make sure to be Ma'aber one of the Chodashim beforehand to make sure that Shabbat does not fall to be the 7th day of Chag Sukkot for several reasons. Because first of all, the mitzvah of Arava is really nowadays a minhag, not even the full Rabbanan come to push muktzeh. It's very complicated. So therefore, they didn't want. They just made sure that that's not going to happen, right? The Gemara says, wait a second. Kiata Ravin v'chol nechutei. When Ravin came from Eretz Yisrael, and all the other Chachamim who came there, Amri, all of them said, Ikla. Well, no, it does fall. It does fall on Shabbat, velo dachi. And it doesn't push away Shabbat. The 7th day does fall on Shabbat, and we don't push away Shabbat. Now, happens to be, even though the Gemara's Maskara seems to be here, that he falls on Shabbat, nowadays he never falls on Shabbat. Why? Because when Hillel HaNasi, right, set up the calendar, he set it up in such way that he basically was choshesh for this Bar Hedya, and he set it up in a way that the 7th day of Chag Sukkot will never, ever fall to be on Shabbat. Right? So that's just the mitziut of our calendar. But the Maskara of the Gemara is not like the Bar Hedya, but like Ravin and Kol Nechute. It's going to be falling on Shabbat according to the Gemara. Velo dachi, and it doesn't push away Shabbat nevertheless. Vela kasha. So we have a question. Why not? Let it push away Shabbat. They know the Kviyah de Yarcha. So why doesn't it push away Shabbat? So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yosef, Man lemalan, the Arava benetilah. This is going to be explosive. Rabbi Yosef just gets up and says, wait a second, who says that you even have to touch Arava? Maybe you just put Arava, lay it on the Mizbeach, this long 11 amot, massive branches of Arava, you just lay it on the Mizbeach, and you go around the Mizbeach. You don't have to take it, you don't have to touch it. So now Abaye is going to be very not happy with this, and is going to go through a series of back and forth to actually prove this point. So it says Gemara, Dilma bezekifa. Rabbi Yosef said maybe it's just bezekifa. You would stick it in the ground and lay it on the Mizbeach, and that would be it. And then you just go around the Mizbeach. Itva Abaye says, no, that can't be. Lulav Arava Shisha Veshiva. The Mishnah, our Mishnah, says Lulav Arava Shisha Veshiva is comparing Lulav and Arava together. My love, Kelulav. Why don't we say that when the Mishnah puts them together in one breath, it means that they're exactly like each other? Just like Lulav, you take, right, and you do Nanuim. Arava also, you take, you do Nanuim, you go around. Mar says, no, Midiria. Who says because they're mentioned together in the Mishnah that it means that they have the same halachot? No. Each one of them has their own halacha. One of them could be that you take it. The other one could be that you stick it in the ground and lay it on the Mizbeach and you go around it. So therefore, it's not a proof that just because they're mentioned in one breath in the Mishnah that they have exactly the same halachot. Well, we're not going to say that you do Nanuim Avana Hashem Moshiana with the Arava. So each one has their own halachot. So says the Gemara, Itva Abaye. Abaye asked the question. Bechol yom makifin et hamizbeach pam achat. Every day they would go around the mizbeach once, pam achat. Ve'oto hayom sheva pamim. That day, the seventh day, they would go around the mizbeach 7 times. So what we do also in our hakafot, right? Hakafot of the Simchat Torah. 1 time every day, 7 times the 7th day. My love Barava, when they're going around, they're taking something maybe in their hand. The Gemara says, no, belulav, they're taking the lulav in their hand. The hakafot is with the lulav. The arava is stuck in the ground. You're going around the mizbech with your lulav. The Gemara says, okay. V'ha'amar Rav Nachman amar Rabba bar Avuha bar Rava. Says, you think I just brought this as a proof just like that? No, because I know that the Amoraim said that this was hakafa with arava in their hand. Rav Nachman said this in the name of Rabba bar Avua, that they would go around the Mizbeach with arava in their hands. Amar le, hu amar lach bar Arava, v'ana amina belulav. Says, what, you proving to me from someone else? You ask a question from my chavruta on me? He says arava, I say lulav. Well, you have no proof. It's 2 Amoraim arguing. Says the Gemara, Itmar, now that we mentioned this machlokit, will bring you the lineup of people who said each one. Rabbi Lazar Omer belulav. Rabbi Lazar holds belulav. They will go around with lulav. Rabbi Shmuel bar Natan Amar Rabbi Chanina, he said in the name of Rabbi Chanina, Barava. They will go around with arava. V'chen Amar Rabbi Nachman Amar Rabba bar Avua. Rabbi Nachman also said this in the name of Rabba bar Avua, that they would go around with arava. Now that we said that Rabbi Elazar used to say that they would go around with lulav, Amar leh Rabba, Rava, the Rabbi Yitzchak bered Rabba bar Chana. Rava said to Rabbi Yitzchak, the son of Rabba bar Chana, who was one of the legendary students of Rabbi Yochanan, Bar Uriah, you the big Talmid Chacham, the young, massive Talmid Chacham, come over here. I want to tell you something in the name of your father. Tave emalach milta ma'alyata, a great shmu'ah, a great halacha, the Hava Amar Avuch, that your father of blessed memory used to say. Haditnan, this that we learned, Kol yom makifinot et hamizbeach pam achat, ve'ota yom makifinot et hamizbeach sheva pamim. This that they used to go around the mizbeach once every day and 7 times the 7th day. Hachi Amar Avuch, your father used to say in the name of Rabbi Elazar that they used to do this belulav, with the lulav, not with arava. Fine. So now that we have this machlokit, Abaye doesn't have a proof because we don't know if the going around the mizbeach was with zikifa or was with netila. Abaye's whole thing was that they used to actually carry the arava. Because Rabbi Yosef said, no, who says that they even carried it? They would push Shabbat. Maybe they stuck it in the ground and it was laying on the Mizbeach. Right? Abaye was not happy with that. Abaye said, no, they would actually carry this muktzeh on Shabbat. And he pushed away Shabbat. So Abaye brings a different proof. Itva Abaye. Abaye asked the question. Lulav doche et Shabbat. Lulav pushes away Shabbat betchilato, in the beginning of the Chag, ve'arava besofo. And arava pushes away Shabbat at the end of Chag. And the story that's attached to this is Pam achat chal shvi shel arava liot b'Shabbat. One day, one year, the seventh day of Chag HaSukkot fell to be on Shabbat. And this is what happened. Listen to the Gemara. Ve'heviu marbiyot shel arava me'erev Shabbat. They brought these long branches of arava from erev Shabbat. Ve'inichum ba'azara. And they put them in azara, ready for the mitzvah of tomorrow. Ve'ikiru bahen Baitusin. And Baitusin heard about it, got a wind of this. Now Baitusin did not believe in Torah Shebal Peh. Right? They didn't believe in Torah Shebal Peh. And they did everything that it was in their power. They're very frum in their own crumness, right? In their own crooked view of things. They were very religiously fighting back the Chachamim on their belief. So therefore, when they got wind of this, that it's going to be Arava there, it's not written in the Torah. It's not in the Torah, they don't believe in it. So they went out of the way to make it impossible for Chachamim to take Arava and Shabbat. What did they do? Untalum v'kvashum tachat avanim. They said, oh, these people believe in this nonsense. They also believe in another nonsense, that stones are muktzeh. They don't believe in the whole concept of Arava, they only believe in the whole concept of muktzeh. So they went and they took all these Aravot and they put stones on them. They hid them under the rocks. So now they can't take it. So what happened? Lemachar hikir b'ayin amei haaretz. Tomorrow, the laymen, amei haaretz, who weren't necessarily so careful in this thing of muktzeh, they came. Ushmatu mitachad ha'avarim. They pulled them out from under the avanim. Ve'eviu ma'kohanim uskafum besidei ha'mizbeach. And then kohanim came, found them intact. They put them next to the mizbeach. Lefi she'en baitusin modim shechibut aravat doche et haShabbat. Listen to the language of the Braita. Because the baitusim are not modeh, they're not in agreement that chibut ha'arava. Chibut is the nanuim, right? The chibut ha'arava is doche et haShabbat. What do you see from this Braita? That it's not these kafum etzel mizbeach sticking in the ground and laying it on mizbeach. That's the mitzvah of arava, but it is mitzvah of chibut arava, moving it, going around with it. What now we do the way we do it. They did the way they did it. But you see from the language of chibut arava, the people actually would go around the mizbeach before they stuck it in the ground. And on the thing, they would first go around with it, and then they would put it next to the mizbeach. So you see that they actually carried it. People carried it, which means, says Abaye, that it pushed away the mitzvah of Arava, pushed away the issue of muktzeh on Shabbat, pushed away Shabbat. So now that we proved it, that we put Rav Yosef basically out of question, ve'ela nitchu. Now back to our question: why doesn't today the mitzvah of Arava push away Shabbat? For people in Eretz Yisrael, of course, that they are baki in kiviyah deyarcha, that they know the day. So let it push away today. What's the difference back then and now? Mar says, "Ve'ela nitchu kevan da'ana lo dachinan inu nami lo dachi." Says no, because we, us, in the gvulin, in chutz la'aretz, outside of the area of the mikdash, once we don't push away Shabbat for Arava, people in Eretz Yisrael also don't do it. No one says, can't say that, because we just said in Amud Aleph that in Eretz Yisrael, in Makom HaMikdash, they do, and in outside they don't. So what's the difference? Says the Gemara. Yom Tov HaRishon, by Lulav, on the first day of Chag HaSukkot, the maskana of the Gemara earlier was that for us it doesn't push away Shabbat, because we are not baki bekiviyah deyarcha, but for them in Eretz Yisrael who are baki in Kiviyat Yarcha, it does push away. That was the maskara of the Gemara. Veledid hudachi, says the Gemara. Amri, they said, no. Who says for them it is doche? Ledid hu nami lo dachu. This is where the Gemara falls off of Amud Aleph. But it says for them. Oh, who said for them it pushes? Lulav nowadays does not push off Shabbat. Not for us and not for them. I said, wait a second. But you said it does. Ve'ela kasha, and we had a proof. You remember what the proof was in Amud Aleph? The proof was we had two braitas. One braita was that from Erev Shabbat they would bring their lulav and they would put it in the azara, in the mishkan, in the mikdash, for tomorrow morning to do it on Shabbat. And the other braita said they would bring it to not the mikdash but Bet Knesset. Two mishnayot, that one of them says Bet Knesset, one of them says Mikdash. And the Gemara says, well, Bet Knesset Mikdash must be, one of them is talking about the time of Bet HaMikdash, and one of them is talking about nowadays, that we don't have the Bet HaMikdash, we still do it. Right? That's how the maskara of the Gemara came about. The Gemara is going to challenge that right now. Where it says, this stira that we had, El Akasha, Hanetarti, Ditnan, these two mishnayot that we have, Chada, that one of them says, Kol ha'am molichine tulavehen lehar habayit. One of them says the whole community would take the lulav to Har Habayit, to the place of the Bet HaMikdash. And a different Mishnah says, LeBet HaKnesset, they would take the lulav to Bet Knesset. Umetar Sinan, and in Amud Aleph we answered, Kan bizman shebet HaMikdash kayam, Kan bizman shebet HaMikdash kayam. The one of them is in the time of the Bet HaMikdash, the other one is after Churban nowadays. Mar says, no, that's not the answer. You know what the answer is in the stira of the two Mishnayot? A very simple answer. Lo idi ve'idi bizman shebet HaMikdash kayam. Both of them are talking about the time of the Bet HaMikdash. Because outside the time of the Bet HaMikdash, the whole thing does not apply. So why is Bet Knesset not Har Habayit? Because, well, not everyone lives in Yerushalayim. In the time of the Mikdash, what would you do if you were in Tiberia? What would you do if you lived anywhere else in Eretz Yisrael? So you would take it to the Bet Knesset, not Bet HaMikdash. But the whole thing only applies when the Bet HaMikdash stands. And therefore, nowadays that the Bet HaMikdash doesn't stand, once we don't do it, they in Eretz Yisrael also do not do it, even though that they are baki bekviyat yarcha, or nowadays for us that we know the calendar because of Hilel HaNasi, still we would not push away Shabbat, even a Isur Muktzeh for the Lulav, and the same would be, says the Gemara, for the mitzvah of Arava as well, which Be'ezrat Hashem we will unwrap and continue to learn in the days to come.
Zagabaru.
Rabbi,